Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Julian Lumpkin. He is founder and CEO at SuccessKit. We're going to talk about case studies. We're going to talk about sales. We're going to talk about white papers, testimonials, everything in between. This podcast is brought to you by my AI cold email outreach company, which is called Top Leads. If you want to scale to 75 meetings a week, hit me up. Julian, welcome to the pod. Let me know about a bit more about yourself and a bit more about SuccessKit.
Great. It's great to be here, Charles. My name is Julian Lumpkin. Like you said, I'm the founder of SuccessKit. And I started my career in sales many years ago. I did sales for a number of years, and I became a sales manager at a technology company. And about 7 years ago, I left to start SuccessKit when I realized from a sales perspective how important case studies and video testimonials were in the sales process and how many companies struggle to create them. So I left and created a small agency focused just on creating case studies and video testimonials. And that is what I do now.
Interesting. Yeah, they have a huge importance. People do not realize, well, some of us realize, but people, when they buy after you're done with a sales call, they will check you up on your website. And if your website doesn't have any testimonials or folks that have bought from you, people feel the social herd effect to not buy from you because it's like, who's this guy? You know, he's probably not cool, he's not part of the herd, or no one has bought from him, and they might be scared, or even worse, have buyer's remorse even if they buy from you. So what do you suggest exactly did I do, for example, with my cold email agency, in terms of case studies, in terms of testimonials? Because I have testimonials, I haven't done the case study yet. Maybe we should start with the difference between both and why case studies can also be beneficial there.
Sure. Yeah. So the way that I look at it is a case study is very similar to a video testimonial. It's just in written form and usually goes into a little bit more detail. So when people do a video, and video testimonials are great, we do those too, and you can do them really informally on your own or hire a professional agency like us to do them. But, you know, the standard video testimonial is about 2 minutes, which is really just enough time to like explain who they are, what they do, and why they use your product, and kind of give that like social proof element. A case study is similar, but because it's in written format and they usually go more like 2 to 3 pages, there's a little more room and detail to talk about the business case, the why. So it's not just like, hey, I work with Charles at Top Leads. It was great. They got us a bunch of meetings. That's nice. But a case study might start by talking about, well, I was really struggling to get enough meetings, and it was causing the pipeline not to be full, which made us miss our sales revenue. We tried doing email ourselves. We tried LinkedIn. It wasn't working. And then I finally found Top Lead. So there's a little more room to go into the detail. But it's the same idea. It's getting your client to go on record and talk about why they work with you and what results they've achieved. And the difference is, I talk about this a lot. Like, you know, some people like to watch video and some people like to read. So you really need to have both. I talk to potential clients and they say things like, oh, well, I like to watch video. No one reads anymore. Let's just do videos. And I tell them, you may like to watch videos, but some people like to read. And vice versa. So the best practice is to have both. And if you look at the top companies in the world, they always have video testimonials and case studies.
How do I get these case studies from my clients? Do they need to be absolutely satisfied, or can I bribe them into making a testimonial video for me?
They need to be satisfied. I think that if you know, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with giving them a small incentive to participate, but I would think about that as really exchanging that for their time and their favor. They have to be super positive about you. If they're a lukewarm customer, that video testimonial is not going to come out well. So if you really have to like bribe them, if you have to bribe them to give you some time, give them a little something, okay. But if you have to bribe them to say good things about you, focus on finding a new customer for a case study would be my recommendation.
So it needs to be organic. You pick some of your clients that had the best results for you, and then how do you get them to hop on a call and record a video, because there's various apps for that. I believe there's like testimonial.so that I used to use for this. They just hit the button, it records, and then it auto sends. So how to make the process go as easy and smooth running as possible?
Well, if you're working with professionals, we're going to tell them, like us or another agency, is the first thing you want to tell your client is we're working with an agency that's going to hold your hand through the process. So if you are able to afford and are working with an agency, just sending them to a link to an app and letting them figure it out isn't as good. That approach is fine, but the real best way to do this is to work with someone who's going to coach them through getting their camera set up, mailing them a mic and camera if needed, getting the lighting right, the backlighting, all the little things that go into it. And the most important thing to tell the client is we're going to hold your hand through the entire process. You want to always explain to them, like, there's not going to be a burden on them, because that's the biggest reason people say no to video testimonials, is they don't want to get on video. They don't want to get it all set up. They don't want to download an app and figure it out. So best practices is to have a video person who's working with them remotely to capture that video.
Right. You'd be the second case study agency that I interviewed in less than 7 days.
Oh, wow. Which other one did you interview?
I can tell you her name. She's Canadian, so I could pull that out if you give me a couple of minutes here. But
the lady from Uplift Content?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I've spoken with her.
Nice. And is that like a growing niche? And yes, are there many of you folks out there?
It's growing. There's 3 or 4 what I would call companies, like with at least a few full-time employees like mine, that do this. And then there's a number of freelancers who do it as well. As opposed to when I started, there was like one other full-time person doing it and me. So it's grown quite a bit in the last 7 years.
Why do you think that has grown? Because we started seeing case studies and testimonials on websites, let's call it 5 years ago. I think ClickFunnels really put the emphasis on that as well. Then people don't know how to necessarily get these testimonials. Some people are even uncomfortable asking for them. Why do you think this has grown, and even more so to create agencies like yours to offer that as a service?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think anything has fundamentally changed in the way that people think about the value of case studies and testimonials. I think that it's really been known for a long time that they're important. I think it more has to do with, one, just companies like mine and a couple others existing and saying, like, hey, if you need case studies, like, don't do this internally anymore, or don't hire some random marketing agency or freelancers who don't know what they're doing. These are better options. So as we've grown, other ones have kind of come into play to try to do the same thing, and we keep growing. So I think people have known the case studies are important for a long time. The reason that the niche has grown is that once people work with an agency like ours, they realize that case studies are a very unique type of content where it's actually easier for us as an outside third party to do it. So what I mean by that is, like, if you at Top Leads were trying to create a 20-page white paper about best practices for lead generation, something that you were an expert on, or you were trying to create, a blog series, we as experts couldn't come in and do that for you, or it would be very difficult. And it'd be that kind of agency type relationship where it's like, hey, we're the experts and this agency is trying to say it for us. And there's that sort of mismatch and why it's challenging. And not to say that it's not great to work with an agency, they can be great, but there's challenges. Case studies are kind of unique because a case study shouldn't sound like you wrote it. I always tell my clients, you can describe things more precisely, but you want us to be sort of this neutral third party that captures the authentic voice of the customer. So I think the reason it's really grown is because it's a very natural thing to outsource, because case studies are best when they're done by a more neutral party. And I think people are realizing that. So they're seeing the amount of time they're wasting and spending on internal resources, and have found that just agencies are, whether it's mine or some of the other good ones that you've mentioned, are just going to be better at it.
Right. And I see here that your services, they start at 2.4K. What do you offer exactly for that? And how many of these packages do you sell a month?
So the 2,450 is actually not the lowest entry point. That's to get a written case study and a few short videos based on that case study. So that's our intro offer, written case study and 3 short videos. Just a written case study can be as low as 1,750. So that gives an idea there. And I'm sorry, I think you asked another question that I.
Yeah, how many of those do you sell a month?
Yeah, so there's all different packages. I'd say of this particular offer, maybe 5 or 6. But we're doing about 20 written case studies a month, and then a whole bunch of videos as add-ons to those written case studies.
So somewhere about 30K MRR as an agency.
Significantly more than that, because the written case study is about 2K, and then the videos are add-ons.
Okay, so 60K, something like that. That you've been
Yeah.
doing that since the past 5 years, right?
No, that's what we're doing now, but we've been kind of steadily growing. So it's kind of the story of my agency is very slow but steady growth. So we've never grown as fast as I want. I used to want to run a 7 or an 8 or 9 figure business, and we haven't been able to accomplish that. But we've just grown very steadily. So like, year 1 and 2, we're doing a few case studies a month, then 5, then 8, then 12. It's been a slow, steady climb up to where we are now.
Do you feel that you're the category king here? And is that what you aim to become?
I do. I think that, well, I think that there's different types of agencies out there, and there's a couple ones that serve different parts of the market. I think for the part of the market that wants efficiency, that doesn't want to overcomplicate their case studies, is kind of our ethos. We are 100%, the leader there. There are other agencies that take a more like, we're going to become part of your marketing team and work and strategize on those case studies with you, that I see as a little bit different from us. And they own that part of the market. That's the way I see things.
Right. And why do you think you haven't reached your 8 or 9 figure goals? And is that still like what you're aiming for? And how has that changed your perception of goal setting as an agency owner?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So why I haven't achieved it, I think that there is sort of, by staying very focused on this niche, there's been a lot of positives as far as it allowing us to really be great at one thing, and not spread ourselves too thin, create a great process. But it does limit the amount of revenue, because even a great client only needs so many case studies. So I think the reason that we haven't really scaled is my decision, and it is conscious, and unwillingness to say, yeah, we're going to do your website, we're going to do all other services, which is how marketing agencies often grow. And I didn't see that as the right path, and it's not a path I want to take. And the result is that kind of slow, healthy, but very slow growth.
Right. So how are you contributing to this growth and acquiring new clients nowadays?
So, it's pretty much referrals. We have a great client base. Without us prodding too much, they talk to other marketers and CEOs. And when they hear someone needs case studies, they find us. We also produce, so it's all just kind of like, as a small agency, it's, we have to rely on word of mouth and free advertising. So there's referrals are the major part of it. But then we also produce a lot of content about how we share everything we know about how to create case studies and video testimonials. So we've taught hundreds of people how to do this themselves. And we're perfectly fine with that. But as a result, when people need help, they find us.
Interesting. Do you go after specific niches, and don't you feel that like if you only go referral, you're not controlling the direction of your business?
So we've tried to do so. It's not that we've done like no outbound. We've tried to do some outbound, but you know, the economics for a small agency is you should, you know, if you're doing good work, you should be able to get referrals. And I think that, you know, I think case studies are something that's very like specific and unique. Like people kind of already need to be thinking about it. We can't reach out to someone and tell them they need case studies. That doesn't work. They need to be like, I need case studies. Let me find someone. So, and I know this is true for our competitors as well, that like outbound, it's a small thing, but, and I come from the world of sales and outbound sales. So this was a little bit of a frustration that it really lends itself to more of an inbound sales approach.
SEO in that case,
Yeah,
and case
that's
study
what we focus
SEO.
on. Yep. So we produce tons of content, example case studies, and people find us organically when they're searching for information about examples of best case studies, how to find case studies, how to create a video testimonial. It's other than referrals, that's the other way people find us. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so people find me that way and find us that way as well.
You also have your podcast.
And a podcast. That's right. That's a little more of a side pet project. It hasn't led to a whole bunch of leads, but I enjoy it, and it certainly helps.
So what was your thesis behind the pod and starting a pod?
I wanted to. It was that simple. I love listening to podcasts, so it wasn't like, oh, this is going to generate a whole bunch of leads. It was more like I once a month have a conversation about like with my clients about how they started their business. And I'm like, one, I need to do this more. And two, people find it interesting. So instead of just having these conversations where I ask, because most of my clients are CEOs, founders, CEOs of small, medium growing companies. So I'm already asking them about their story and talking about like how they founded their company and telling them about mine. And then just realize like, I like podcasts. I'm already doing this. Why not record it and also make myself have two of these conversations a month instead of one.
And your ICP, you mentioned people, how they started their businesses. So are these small business founders? Who are they exactly?
Yeah, I wouldn't say small business. Usually if they're only like 5 or 6 people, they're not going to be able to afford us. So it's usually like small and medium, growing businesses. And they're at this point where they're like, all right, we're hiring sales reps. So sales needs like marketing content, but they either have like just like one full-time marketing person or maybe no full-time marketing people. So they need assistance to get the most important content done. So that's like the most standard kind of client. 50-person company. I work directly with the CEO. That CEO has one marketing person who's way too busy to do everything. CEO introduces me to their marketing person. I work with them to create the case studies. That's like our kind of standard, most common client relationship.
I guess SaaS also.
SaaS is big. SaaS is pretty big, I should say. I will note SaaS companies tend to hire marketing teams faster. So they're not our biggest industry. We've definitely done quite a few SaaS case studies. Professional services is a big one for us. Those are often companies that don't have marketing resources internally.
So what are your top 3 goals for this year with all of that in mind? What is your top focus?
For this year, for 2024 coming up, or this year?
Yeah, I guess because only 2 months remaining for this year. I'm guessing you're not necessarily chilling, but you're like almost wrapping up if you want, I guess, this year. So what about the next?
Yeah, so we're wrapping up another good year of slow, steady growth, which is, basically hitting like the kind of like when I set goals, I like, instead of like one goal, I like to think of like, here's what I'd be satisfied with, and here's a stretch goal. So yet another year where we've hit the satisfied goal, but not the stretch goal. And next year, my biggest initiative and goal is to effectively expand the product. offering that we do, and we're making a big change, or a big new service we're offering, where we are now, and we're doing this for some early clients, so we won't be offering it to everyone for a little while, but we're actually building the case studies of our clients' webpage for them. And it's a big change. We've stayed away from doing anything related to web development intentionally for a long time, but so many of my clients want a turnkey solution to get case studies and then get them on their website. And we feel we can build these pages. So my biggest initiative is to effectively, for 2024, is to launch this new offering, to have several, or let's say at least a dozen clients up and running on it. And by the end of next year, for it to be a part of our standard process, sales process of what we offer to new potential clients.
And where can people find out more about you, Julian?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find because I think I'm the only Julian Lumpkin in the world. So if you just Google my name, my LinkedIn comes up. That's pretty much the only social media platform I'm active on. So if you want to see what we're doing, follow me on LinkedIn. If you want to find my company, Success Kit, we're at successkit.io. And I'm always happy to help. So if any of your listeners, if you have questions about case studies, you need some guidance, maybe you're not ready to hire an agency, shoot me an email. I'll see if I can help.
Thank you so much. And that was Charles Cormier, host of CEOWisdompodcast.com, and Julian Lumpkin.